So here's the thing, when the sulfur springs were added to the game in the first snapshot for this update on Java, at least, these sulfur springs came with a funny, peculiar block combination of magma blocks underneath the potent sulfur. Now in hindsight, quite obviously, a setup for the beautiful geezers that we would now come to know and love. But at least initially, even when we probably should have, we didn't think very much of this. Hints inside of the game, leaks inside of the code. The Chaos Cubed update? Well, we might now know everything else that the developers are planning on adding to the update. At least for the most part. Smash that like button and let's do this. Small bows. So inside of the Sulfur Cube update, of course, we've got the Sulfur Cube. The main version of our Sulfur Cube friend is, of course, the grown-up one. It bounces around, it looks funny, you can put a block inside of it, or not, you can do whatever you want, including chop this thing in half into some smaller baby Sulfur Cubes. Now these small babies, this is where some of the weirdness begins to arise for this update. You see, the strange thing about this update and how it is right now, this small Sulfur Cube doesn't really do much in game, except it has the textures for a little bit more. So, of course, as we can see here in-game, we've got a small sulfur cube. It's got to have a texture if we're going to, well, actually see it. Otherwise, it would, just be completely invisible. But unlike its big counterpart, the small sulfur cube, you can't put a block inside of it. I mean, you could hit it around, but it doesn't have very much health. It's not going to take that for very long. It doesn't actually do anything. It just bounces, and then after 20 minutes, grows up. In fact, it doesn't even have a drop. It's weird. Found inside of the files for Minecraft Bedrock Edition version of this update, we have unused Sulfur Cube layers and variants. Base right here. Now this does maybe look like an older texture of the Sulfur Cube with those motionless, soulless eyes and the smoother texture all around. But intriguingly, what Mojang has done here with this texture is we don't have it in just one layer. We have the texture able to come apart still, so you could put things inside of the Sulfur Cube and, have the blocks show up. So, for example, what I mean here, when we have the big Sulfur Cube, in order to pull off the whole blocks inside of it thing, we have two different layers to it. We've got this inside weird cube, and then the outer cube that will always persist. Then you put, say, stone inside of it, and voila, the inside goes away, combines with the outside, and that's how you do it. For some odd reason, we have different textures for the smaller cube that can actually support blocks inside of it. Even though blocks inside of the smaller balls, one of the big requested features of this update, it just doesn't work right now. Maybe it's not too long of a shot to say that the small Sulfur Cube will be able to have blocks inside of it too. Well, okay, so I want to interrupt your regular scheduled program for a big announcement. I have, if you haven't heard the news, a brand new channel. On that channel, I've got an ambitious goal of something new for you every single day for at least a year. We're going to see how far we can take this little thing, and I'd love to have you join the journey. If that all sounds cool to you and you want to help me out, join along, then smash that subscribe button on this brand new channel, Wattz. I'm going to go ahead and tag it near the top of the description so you can easily send yourself over to it. Alright, so speaking of balls, we've got balls and we've got creams. Magma cream, slime ball. Slime, magma cube. So similar to the sulfur cube, in fact, that when this thing was initially being teased, Mojang straight up used these two different mobs to try and promote the sulfur cube. Our OG bouncy cube mobs, they've got cream, they've got balls. But the new one, well, you see, the new one, it's had a texture inside of the game since its initial implementation, but it hasn't actually been put into the game. Fun fact, there's a particle called sulfur cube goo. Right now, it's used for when the cube falls all the way back onto the ground, but it looks a whole lot like the other balls. So there we have the brand new item texture fully in the game, just basically unused, and then the two that we know and love. They are literally the same exact thing. In fact, the slime one, the shading is even the same too. Now, allegedly being used for all of those little particles that are bouncing out near the side of the cube when it bounces around, but why would Mojang go ahead and create a whole circle-shaped item just for that simple little bits of texture? That doesn't really make sense. If you think about it here, it's quite odd that when we chop this thing up, we get experience the first time, but then when we take out the babies, we don't get anything at all. It definitely seems like there's something missing there. Sulfur cube goo that could, who knows, maybe allow us to actually create sulfur cube blocks? You know, something kind of like a slime block or something? Gosh, what that block would actually do, I have no clue. But it's intriguing. Next up here, I want to take a look at my beautiful sign, Chaos Cubed. I hope you like it. I built it myself. And then we've got our blocks. We've got sulfur and we've got cinnabar. Now, obviously, thanks to the pointed dripstone spike thing, we are definitely easily able to renewability this thing. You set up this combination of block right here, then just wait like 20 minutes, and eventually, whether it's on the floor or hanging off of this thing, the sulfur spike will grow. Agnes has said it before, Mojang's whole MO on new features coming to the game is that they are readily available for, like, pretty much everybody. Sulfur, considering the fact that you can buy the spike from the wandering trader, you could even get this thing in Mog Swamp's super flat world. On the other hand, cinnabar, I think it's exclusive to the biome still. Like, that's the only way to get it. Our next stop on the list today is a little bit less of a leak because, unfortunately, I have none. But something like renewability of the cinnabar block seems all but certain. Now, will it be done with spikes? I would wager probably not, otherwise they would have added that to the game already. But somehow, whether it's a piece of cinnabar that is maybe dropped from a mob that you could find inside of the biome, I like that idea. Or even maybe just combining tuff and granite together to be able to craft the stuff, there's gotta be a way. Definitely plan on by the end of this update cycle, some sort of cinnabar renewability to be implemented. Potent sulfur. It's oh so yellow, it's oh so stinky. This is definitely one of the more important parts of this update. When we have potent sulfur under the water, we have all of these different bubble particles that will pop up to basically allow us to know that, hey, if you jump in this thing, dude, you're gonna get hecka dizzy. It's not gonna be fun. Well, did you know that there might actually be a little bit more of the potent sulfur and nausea coming soon? So this one sort of reminds me of the magma block combination with the spring. It's a weird thing that was in every single one of these structures. We had no clue what it meant, but I mean, obviously here was a setup for something much more beautiful to come to the game later on. As found inside of the game by, I believe, Fanny Explorer 31, there is a noxious gas cloud inside of the game that doesn't work. Now, you would think that this might have just been an oversight, but if this particle truly was an oversight, they would have removed it from the game by now, right? Now, with the help of the particle command, we could actually go ahead and check this particle out. We have noxious gas. If I go ahead and run this one, well, then the noxious gas particle, it'll play at my feet. Maybe this is a more consistent way so you could see it down there. But the other one, noxious gas cloud, if I go ahead and run that one, well, nothing happens every single time. It's something different inside of the game, but nothing actually happens. Now, what the heck something like this could actually be, I don't know, because we've already got this cool erupting mechanic going on over there with the geyser. Potent sulfur, combine it with, I don't know, something else to make it into a cloud? I guess the first place my mind goes, and maybe this is obviously only because we have the magma block one, the soul sand block does something else. Is there any kind of way maybe it's gonna do something? Make more nausea? That's weird, but I don't know. Surely the geysers aren't going to shoot up more nausea, because if that was going to happen and these particles were going to fly up, they would have done that last week. It's quite odd that we have this just fully unused particle inside of the game, a unique name for the particle and everything like that. Watch, after I drop this video, Mojang's going to realize that that's in the game and it's just going to be gone. They just want to make me look like a clown. I know it. Sulfur cube archetypes. This basically means sulfur cubes having different properties based on what is inside of the cube. You know, how like a wood one's bouncy, an ice one's slidey, an iron one is heavy. When you want to talk about Mojang expanding this update, obviously, the easiest route that they could go, just like they did this past week with the TNT one, is add new variants of the sulfur cube into the game that do something different. For starters here, two that we have on Bedrock Edition that we do not have on Java still, a sulfur cube with a slime block inside of it, and a sulfur cube with a honey block inside of it as well. Both of these two strange blocks work on Bedrock, but are fully non-existent on Java. Now, what the slime one could do, that's pretty straightforward. You have a wood one inside of the sulfur cube, and it bounces a little bit. Imagine supercharging that with a super bouncy sulfur cube. The honey one, on the other hand, I would say that that's pretty self-explanatory too. I mean, we do already have this one archetype called Sticky in the game. You put honeycomb inside of the sulfur cube, and I mean, yeah, it's like pretty sticky here. One thing that doesn't really happen with this archetype of the cube is like sticking to a wall or a ceiling or something like that. Curiously, that was a popular mechanic that worked initially on a Bedrock Edition version of the update. So maybe sulfur cubes being able to be attached to the ceiling, it's not too far off. Now really, Minecraft's got a lot of different blocks. We can speculate on archetypes and possibilities all day long. In fact, a challenge. If you have one in mind, drop it down below. Maybe the developers will see that comment and then want to add it into the game in the next couple of weeks. But one that is really obvious to me is a note block one. If I put a note block inside of the sulfur cube and hit it, imagine having a sulfur cube that slides around kind of like wood, because the note block is that, but it plays a note every time too. Another pretty obvious one to me, a redstone one. I put a redstone block inside of it. In the last week's snapshot, we had the implementation of the sulfur cube. You know, this little guy actually being able to interact with redstone, specifically TNT, explode with it. Why not a redstone block inside of it, being able to power lines as well? It definitely seems like a lot of the groundwork for that capability has already been laid with the TNT setup there. And then, last but not least, for archetypes that I'm going to fire off right here today, light, the Illuminous Sulfur Cube. You put any light block inside of the Sulfur Cube, and it kind of glows, except, no, it doesn't actually glow. When I move it around in the world, there's no light coming from the Sulfur Cube, even though it definitely kind of looks like that block is lit up inside of it, and maybe light should be coming from it. This is a sulfur cube functionality that was changed early on in the update. They changed it in order to make the cube look really good, something like this right here, but it doesn't actually light up. However, that functionality with dynamic lighting possibilities, well, that was exactly shown off in this year's April Fool's snapshot. Dynamic lighting being added to the game, but only coming from the sulfur cube, would be the perfect grand slam finale to this update. And last but not least today, speaking of lighting, it looks like Mojang is about to cook up something with glow lichen all over the sulfur cave, including maybe a new plant. Changes to multi-phase growth. Field block is now mandatory. Previously, it defaulted to grow lichen. Now here's the thing, because over on Bedrock Edition, the large amount of glow lichen all over this biome is still persisting. This is an interesting lack of parity that has been here pretty much since day one of this update. When they showed this off at Minecraft Live, there was so much glow lichen all over the place, but the glow lichen all over the place never really made it to Java. Now we've got command functionality set up for something similar but different to glow lichen all over the place, and I would wager that maybe glow lichen initially was some sort of placeholder for something else new coming to the game inside of this biome. Also, the fact that it's been untouched, a huge parity issue on Java and Bedrock for all of these weeks now, that's definitely a sign that the devs don't care, and they're going to change it later anyway. I have to say, with the vibrant visuals inside of this biome, the lighting all over the place, it does make it look quite beautiful. I wonder what kind of illuminous new plant Mojang could be cooking up. Like, what actually grows in a sulfur cave? And so, when it comes to Chaos Cubed features, the hints and clues and little leaks that we could find as to what's next, I think that's just about everything, other than more changes to the biome's generation. My patrons, I want to send a big shout out, Ground Crazy May, Medical Boomstick, Fire Dragon 19, Steve M, The Duke Pixie Phantom, Deb K, Fateful Grimoire, Jilly K, and Alina R. Do me a favor, check out my brand new channel, subscribe to it, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.